everyone. Welcome to Aleph Academy. I'm Janaka. I'm your host for the day. If you're new here, this is a session we do every month. We talk about technology, UX research, culture, design, and we've been doing this for about 2 years now. So if you're interested in content like this, make sure you check out our channel and subscribe to our channel. Let's get right into today's session. To introduce your guest today, we have Erik. Erik needs no introduction to Alephians, but if you're new here, Erik is our Chief Growth Officer. He steers our organization towards innovation, new technology, new business. From an engineer's perspective, like myself, he keeps us on our toes. Welcome to the show, Erik.
Thanks so much for having me, Janaka.
I actually should say welcome back, Erik. You've been here on a previous episode as well. I think the link to the previous episode should be in the description. And you gave us a good overview of the blockchain space, DeFi space specifically in that episode. And in the last year or so, and in previous years, the conversation in the media very heavily steers towards the price of Bitcoin or Ethereum, about the market. So, but we are really interested in the technology behind it and what kind of unique new user experience we can build. So I think Erik has about 4 or 5 projects or points he wants to talk about. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely right, Janaka. We are in it for the technology. But on a serious note, yeah, the markets are up and down. And I like to split my thinking when it comes to crypto into 2 buckets. One is token go up, which is normally what brings people into the ecosystem. But then the other side of my brain, is fascinated by the underlying Web3, blockchain, NFT, crypto technology, and all the innovation that's happening in the space. So I think it's important to kind of split that thinking up and look at one versus the other. And you are right. I've done my homework, and I've got kind of 5 themes for us to talk about one by one in the crypto and blockchain space. Shall we get started with number 1? Okay, cool. All right, the first one is around crypto wallets, right? So I talked about this difference of the token go up versus the Web3 world, and I want to reiterate the difference between a centralized exchange wallet like a Gemini or a Binance versus a decentralized wallet or a trustless wallet, one where you custody it yourself. Like, for example, MetaMask is one of the most popular ones. Coinbase has both. They also have a your keys, your crypto type wallet called Coinbase Wallet, where you use that wallet to interact directly with the blockchain world. And but the wallet that I kind of want to highlight is one called Argent, ARGENT. Look, for some of us who've been in the space, they know some of the challenges with wallets, right? It's hard for the average user to, keep custody of your seed phrase. The second big challenge is what is the difference between layer 1, layer 2, rollups, startnet, zk sync, all of that. It's hard to know the difference. And what I really like about what Argent has done is they try to solve for lots of cases, but particularly those 2 use cases. So this is an Ethereum wallet that gives you access to staking of ETH, thereby earning some yield on your stable coins, but also have a on-ramp and off-ramp through a card or a bank transfer, and access to a decentralized exchange, which I think is a layer 2 exchange. I think it's startnet or zk base, which lowers fees and high speeds. Go ahead.
Just so maybe for our viewers, maybe to draw a parallel, I don't know if it's right to say, if you're familiar with the regular stock market, it's possible to have a custodial wallet with one of the exchanges like, I don't know, but you can also have a non-custodial wallet, which you are the direct owner and the stocks are directly owned by you, not owned by it. Is it similar in this case?
Uh, i- in a way, yes. Like for example, if you trade with Standard Chartered, they actually custody your stocks, and you just have an account with
Yeah.
Standard Chartered. There are also ways to directly own your stocks, and maybe the parallel is that it's much easier to bank with a bank and let them hold your stocks versus directly with the exchange. But I think the biggest difference in the Web3 space is that by custodying your own
Yeah.
wallet, you get to interact directly with the blockchain. So you get to interact with new protocols that are out there. And just to go back to Argent, like again, when you set up your first wallet, you have to remember the seed phrase. Really annoying. So what Argent has done is this idea of guardians, where you send part of your seed phrase to trusted entities, which can be your friends, family, or third-party organizations, and social recovery, which means that if you lose access, you lose your username and password, if you will, you go to those trusted friends, they give you all the different pieces of your seed phrase, and through that, you get back access to your account, right? So it's almost like
recreate it. Yeah?
Exactly. It's like password recovery, but through friends, family, or third parties, or whatever you have, what other method you have put into place. So
That's kind of interesting, right? I think maybe what people don't realize is when you're interacting with blockchain and you need a wallet, there is no forgot password feature, right? You can't. It's not like Gmail where you can go to forgot password and get your password recovered. So this is actually a kind of really cool innovation. This is like I know you mentioned this to me yesterday, and this is kind of really cool.
No, exactly. And so I think it's at the start of innovation, but that's a cool thing. The other cool thing is that Argent kind of allows you to access DeFi without going to the protocols yourself and signing in and or connecting wallet and doing all that. It goes straight through Argent in a trustless fashion, so you don't have to think whether it's ETH or layer 2. And because it's on layer 2, the fees are much lower, and it becomes much more palatable for the mainstream user. So that was topic number 1 for me. I think one of the biggest hurdles is accessing Web3 through your own custody wallet. And here you see a company like, or an organization like Argent trying to make that easier, trying to fix that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think actually the wallet space has improved a lot. I remember 10 years ago, you probably had to run your own node to get this done. And then last year or a couple of years ago, MetaMask came, which just making it a lot easier too. And I think this is really cool what you showed today.
Yeah. And I think just to close it off, like if you're in Singapore and you get your SingPass, everyone now knows how easy it is to log into government services using SingPass.
Exactly.
Right? But they forget how difficult it was to set it up initially. So in a way, a Web3 wallet is like that. It feels difficult right now to set it up, but once you have it set up, you start using it from protocol to protocol, it's super easy, and it gives you access to the whole world of Web3 in one go.
Awesome. Now we are in the blockchain. I got my wallet. I've connected, set all Argent up. What's next?
Awesome. What's next is last year you would have bought an NFT because that was one of the fastest growing parts of the blockchain world. One that caught me by surprise. I didn't know it was going to be such a big deal, but it did become a big deal. And an interesting thing that's happening around the NFT space. I mean, right now, it's pictures or other items of art that are on the blockchain. People are trying to buy those, scarce pieces of art. Therefore, they get some sort of value. And there's a whole bunch of examples. But now people are kind of iterating on the idea of NFTs. And one that I think is an interesting start is the bridge between finance and NFTs. So if you imagine, if you own something like a CryptoPunk, and the CryptoPunk sits, on the blockchain, it's getting offers on places like OpenSea or LooksRare or Rarible, whatever. You can say this CryptoPunk has a certain amount of value. So why shouldn't you be able to borrow money against this asset? And that's exactly what this protocol NFTFi is trying to do, right? So you basically put in collateral like your CryptoPunk or your Bored Ape, and the other side of the marketplace, you can put in money with that CryptoPunk or whatever as collateral, right? So I'll take an example here. Maybe I just check a borrower.
So this is actually like basic loaning. You put something up as collateral, and you can borrow against that.
That's exactly right. So okay, I'll take a specific one. So one user put this CryptoPunk up as collateral. Another user on the other side of the marketplace has said, I give you 70 ETH, but you need to pay me back 75 ETH by March 8th, or else I own this CryptoPunk. Right?
And I'm assuming that these are all like smart contracts and self-executing. Correct. Nobody has to govern this or anything like that.
I don't need to know who this person is that owns their CryptoPunk. I don't need to trust that they will actually give it to me, because I know by the blockchain that they own it and that they've put it into this smart contract as escrow. So yeah, and this is really just the beginning. Yeah.
This is again really cool. This actually I haven't discussed with Erik, so I'm kind of surprised to see. But it probably opens up a lot for many people who probably don't have access to borrowing. Maybe this is a way we can think about getting the ability to borrow by putting up your digital assets as collateral.
Yeah, exactly. And if you believe the people that say that everything is going to be tokenized, and if you believe that whatever is tokenized will operate on a global distributed marketplace, so you kind of know the value of everything that's tokenized, then why not in the future, be able to take loans against anything of value that you own, right? So, yeah. But that, sir, was number 2.
Awesome. What's next?
What's next is, okay, it's another blend of NFTs and finance, but maybe with a bit of a gamification added to it. I think this one is fascinating, particularly because we talk a lot about the metaverse. Okay, bit of background. In the DeFi space, you have protocols like a Curve that allow you to swap from one token to another. In this case, what I've got in front of me, you can swap from DAI to USDC. And there's many things you can do here. You can swap, you can stake, you can provide liquidity into a liquidity pool. There's lots of things you can do, but it's very much a financial interface. So just now we talked about NFTs. Here's a financial interface where you can do things like swapping, loaning, provide liquidity. Now there's this.
I love that retro UI.
Yeah, I also secretly love it. But what this company has done is it's called, or I can't say company, protocol has done, is it's called DeFi Kingdoms. And it's trying to mash this whole idea of finance, NFTs, and gamification into one kind of mishmash. So they say a DeFi game built on the blockchain, designed with usable NFTs. And I'll just play the trailer in the background while we speak. So it's like, I don't know if you played Zelda in the past, but it's a bit like that kind of, you can imagine that kind of map. On that map, you have different quests, etc. To achieve different quests, you need different either heroes or tools or whatever. And so what DeFi Kingdom has done is all of those financial things you can do in the DeFi space, like provide liquidity, like get yield. They've basically used that as a base, and on top have put this game. So you buy certain NFTs to allow you to trade, to allow you to enter liquidity pools, to stake your jewel, which is the token for this ecosystem. You can view and transfer heroes, and so if you think about kind of traditional finance, and you've got your fixed deposit where you put in $10,000 and you get a certain percentage yield out of it, but like if you gamify it and you put in $10,000 in the DeFi Kingdom, you get a certain card. That card basically gives you access back to that money with yield. Like, it's a really just interesting blend of gameplay, finance, and everything in one.
I think this one we've discussed a couple of times before this session, so I kind of know a bit about this, very little. But I want to take you back to something you just said before, right? I can't say company. It's a protocol. Maybe I think if you can unwrap that for the audience, that's something interesting.
So a company falls under the traditional legal system, if you will. And so if you start calling things company in the Web3 world, you start being beholden to company laws. A lot of these organizations like DeFi Kingdoms have anonymous founders, but because their history is on the blockchain, you can build a certain trust, if you will, right? They've acted properly before, so they will act properly in the future. Also, what they're building is inherently not a company because everything is open source. So if a couple of our smart developers and designers want to grab this, they can grab this, copy it, and set up our own kind of DeFi queendoms, right? If you will. So this whole space is open source, interoperable. So to call it a company is not correct because companies usually try to say more IP focused, try to keep things very much to themselves. So I would say that's really one of the biggest differences. Yeah.
Actually, from an engineering perspective, everything on the blockchain by nature is open source because even all of the contracts everyone can read as long as you know the address. So anyway, 100%. Back to the experience side of DeFi Kingdoms. I think this is kind of so cool. Partly because it makes it easy to understand some maybe financial concepts that is difficult to digest. We've done work like this before with our clients like City of Tomorrow, but this is taking it to the next level.
Exactly. Like City of Tomorrow shows how much you've saved by the size of your city. Now, this takes that thinking to like a real extreme level, and the finances under it are very much DeFi. But I think the last point that I want to make on DeFi Kingdoms is around the metaverse. Everyone's talking about the metaverse. Everyone's trying to figure out what it actually is. And within the DeFi,
I'm a big skeptic of the metaverse. So yeah, go ahead.
Look, it depends on how you define it, right? Now,
true.
Like the Decentraland is one type of metaverse definition, and I was taking the screenshot of on-chain activity of the protocol. This is Decentraland. I think this was about 2 months ago when I took this. Users was about 1,000 and declining. And then you look at these DeFi Kingdoms. The users were growing and already had like almost 200 times the amount of users, and this is still growing, right? So I know in our previous talk we said like these innovations often turn out in a very different way than what we initially imagined. And I think this is such a good example because Decentraland is the metaverse we've imagined as children. Like we did not imagine.
Everybody is now talking about Decentraland. And
exactly.
Before you mentioned DeFi Kingdoms, I didn't know about it, but you can see the difference in user base, right?
It's very different. But yeah, sir, that's number.
I think you were going to say before we jump, I want you to make that point. You were going to say the difference between the metaverse we imagine and what it could be. It could be totally something else.
No, exactly that point. That the Decentraland is the way we think the metaverse was supposed to be when we were younger, but the DeFi Kingdoms might be the metaverse that we will end up getting.
Perfect. DeFi Kingdom excites me way more than Decentraland. Let's jump on to the next topic.
All right, next one is number 4, and that is complex kind of financial products that used to be available to institutions and the very wealthy, but made accessible for the retail crypto native user. So I'll give you an example, right? One here is Ribbon, and there's a bunch of others that operate in the options space. Okay, so retail does play around in options, but the way Ribbon tries to approach it is really the way institutions kind of approach it. So I'll just kind of jump into the protocol right away, and here you see most of these are what are called delta neutral options strategies, and I might be getting the terminology wrong, but it basically means is it doesn't matter whether a token goes up or down. It's a different way of trying to approach the market and still getting a yield out of the tokens you hold. So here, if you have ETH and you deposit it into this covered call strategy with ETH, they estimate that you get about 18% return per year, right? So if I just double click in, and there are certain kind of underlying strategies that happen on a weekly basis. So each week you get a certain performance, right? Now, this type of strategy is quite well known in the institutional finance space, but was never really accessible for retail. So one of the things that crypto does is, gives access to the regular guy and gal, if they want to this type of protocol. So this is Ribbon. There's a couple others. I think another really interesting one is called Alchemix. I don't know why they all have such fancy names. There's another one called Abracadabra, which I also really like. But Alchemix. This is version 1 of Alchemix. Alchemix version 2 is coming out really soon. Now, what I really love about the innovation that's happening in this space is, yes, there is front-end innovation. Yes, there's middleware innovation, but it's also like the structure of the financial products are being innovated on as well in interesting ways. So in Alchemix, I'll just kind of jump straight in. You can deposit, in this case, Ethereum, right? So let's say you have 10 Ethereum. You deposit 10 Ethereum in there. So now the protocol holds 10 Ethereum, your 10 Ethereum, right? Now, after you deposit, you can borrow up to 25% of the collateral you put in. So you can borrow 2.5 Ethereum out of the protocol. You can take that out of the protocol. You get it in your wallet. You can change that Ethereum to US dollar and go home, do whatever you want with that. So now what does the protocol have? The protocol has 10 Ethereum of collateral to work with and 2.5 Ethereum debt that you have to repay. But what it does is it takes the 10 Ethereum, goes into the marketplace, tries to get yield on that Ethereum, and uses that yield to pay off your 2.5 Ethereum debt. Okay? So it's like if you don't want to get rid of your tokens, but you still need money in the outside world, you can put your tokens in here, borrow against those tokens, and let the whole system just pay off that debt for you. And the only debt that you have is really time. So I'll just go into the loan estimator. You deposit, let's say, 10 Ethereum, you borrow 2.5. Let's say you have about 5% APY. Your maturity date, or when you can take out all your collateral, is 2025. So about 3 years from now. If the protocol gets better yield, the maturity date becomes shorter and shorter, right? So this is an example of just an interesting innovations that are happening in this space, and you can do USD.
This is really cool, and I want to make the point again. Like sometimes when we see, especially financial products, when they're complex, you wonder whether it's something for you or not, and there's a bit of fear, right? At least I don't know how much about this project, but the point I was trying to make earlier as well, all these things are kind of open source by nature. So if you are really interested and you want to dig into it, you could find out all the information you need about how these contracts are executed, how these products are structured. So I think that's quite powerful, right? Yeah, there you go, GitHub.
Yeah, exactly. All these protocols will have their GitHub link and put everything on there. Yeah, absolutely agree.
And what it does is, even if you don't do your due diligence, there's a strong security community that generally audits most of these popular projects. So I think it's a interesting direction of how financial products are structured, and of course, accessibility is really important as well.
To your point, if you are to interact with any of these protocols, first you need your Web3 wallet, right? The one that we discussed initially in the top right-hand corner. You see here, connect your wallet. But you have to think a bit. So none of this is like telling anyone to do anything here. But you have to think about the layers of risk. And contract risk, the one that you just talked about, is one of them, because in the end, the code might have bugs in it. And on this specific one, yes, Alchemix has been, I don't know if hacked is the right word, but they have had ETH taken out of one of their vaults without them intending to do so because of some contract issue. So all of these protocols, have contract risk in some shape or form as well. So that's a very good point.
Do we have another project to go to, Erik?
Yes, absolutely. We have the fifth one.
Perfect.
The point that I want to make with this fifth point is the idea around blockchain client. If you think about the blockchain, whether it's ETH, AVAX, Luna, whatever, as the database, which is completely open to the public, then you can imagine a world where people create ways to look into that database for very specific purposes, right? So I wanted to kind of hammer in that point with 3 platforms. So you've got Zapperfi, you've got DBank, and you've got Rainbow. And so what I'll do, right, is I'll just take a wallet of someone that I know. I'll put them first into Zapper, right? And you can see that this person has a net worth of $243.56. You can go into their portfolios. You see what they have in wrapped ETH. You see what they have in ETH. And underlying, you see that from an NFT perspective, they have this one NFT, right? Now, you can see from the way this client was created, Zapper, the application, that they're very focused on kind of the financial side. So the same with DBank. I go again here. It's roughly around the same amount of money. They're using different currency exchange, but you can see here also you go to NFTs. Okay, here you see some of the challenges with the blockchain, where DBank does not recognize the NFT that this user holds. So the client has not been able to parse that NFT yet. But from a number perspective, they do see it. So again, these are 2 different clients looking into the same blockchain. And then the last one, let me use Rainbow. So I'll just use the same Ethereum address. And here, this Rainbow is very much focused on NFTs. So you can see here, this NFT shows up. This NFT shows up here as well. But you can see that this application was very much focused around looking at a user's NFTs, right? So
based on the NFT that's showing, I can roughly guess who this is.
Yeah, I won't dox them, but yeah, exactly.
This is really cool, right?
Yeah.
You go ahead. But this is kind of cool. Again, going back to the wallet concept and SyncPass, right? This is kind of like I have one wallet and I can interact with all these other different platforms, right? It's like me going to IRS to pay income tax, or ICA to manage my immigration stuff. So it's kind of like the same thing, and it's so easy, and you just need one wallet to do everything on the chain. Okay, now we know who this is.
So yeah, those are the 5.
Perfect, Erik. I think we made good time. Now on to the favorite part of our show. If you don't mind, Erik, let's hang around. There are lots of questions from the YouTube live chat. Let's get into some of them. But first, let's go with I think there was the initial question on one of our YouTube description and the LinkedIn post was about the impact of NFT and blockchain on the environment. So maybe you want to say something about that?
I think we went into quite a bit of detail around that in the previous academy. That's for sure. But I think generally I would say if you do your own research, have a look at the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. And you realize that most of the chains used in the kind of really active DeFi world are either already on proof of stake or moving to proof of stake, which is much less environmentally damaging. That's one way to think about it, but it's definitely something to do your own research. But I think the whole space knows about or some parts of the space acknowledge the challenge and are actively trying to improve that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yesterday I was watching actually Google Cloud had a blockchain forum, and some of the interesting projects like Chainlink, Axie Infinity use Google Cloud infrastructure. And one of actually, I think Google Cloud is carbon neutral, or so it says on the website. So some of these projects are really making an effort they are conscious about the impact they have on the environment, I feel. But I think that's the start of innovation and interesting things. That's how all these things go, right? I think in the NFT space, I see a couple of questions. Let me read. Okay, here's an interesting one. I think Gail from Malaysia put this up first. Could you uh, put an audio NFT as a collateral for loan? I hope I got the question right.
Yeah, so technically, absolutely. So what would you need? You would need to put whatever it is, your song, on the blockchain as an NFT. I guess the biggest thing would be is how do you judge whether this NFT has value? So you'd need to somehow be able to prove that people are bidding on this NFT because they want to get access to this. So yeah, technically it's definitely possible. But I think the whole space around NFTs, the creator economy, like if you are a musician right now and you want to operate in the space, there's a project out there, I forget what it's called, but it's set up by 3Lao, where musicians basically publish, not in the traditional way, but everything as an NFT. The first buyers get kind of a piece of the share of the music, kind of quote unquote royalties in the future. So I don't know. One way to think about NFTs is that I think they're very creator friendly. Like if you were to create an art piece, it becomes really popular, you sell it once. In the normal world, when you sell it once, that's all you get. In the NFT world, you can program the smart contract in a way that every time it changes hands, you get 10% or you get 5%. So it's really beneficial for the original creator in a way that the traditional art world might not have seen.
This is actually one of my questions. Do you ever envision a future where something like Spotify is totally decentralized and people publish and you can earn, as a creator, you can earn on the basis of how many times your music has been consumed or listened to?
So yes and no. Yes, I think there will be a lot of pressure eventually when creators see NFTs as their medium of choice and they don't go to the traditional Web2 players to get their money, like a Spotify. So I think those organizations will have to innovate in some shape or form. But to the question that you have around, will everything be on the blockchain? No. I only think parts of an experience that are very valuable will be on the blockchain. Other parts that might not be as valuable will still operate in a Web2 type fashion. Yeah.
Let's stay with the NFT space tip. This is what's on everyone's minds these days. Zoom from Vietnam is asked, are NFTs the future of art and collectibles? Maybe I'll add to that. Do you think physical collectibles will ever go away?
I think if I think this first question around is NFTs the future of art and collectibles, Um, I, I think the way to think about NFTs is that they're like a website was maybe 10, 15 years ago, when it started off as a static, one-way piece of communication. And that's how websites started. You put a brochure on the web. And over time, people found ways to do really interesting things with website, like social, allow you to interact with it, created websites like Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, etc. I think NFTs right now are kind of like where websites were maybe 10 years ago. It feels static, but actually, what can you do with NFTs? You can, pump data through NFTs. You can, do something commercial with NFTs. It really depends on how you code the smart contract. So in that sense, I think, yes, it's the future of art and collectibles in a way, but it's also much, much more than that, I feel. And then your question around will physical goods ever go away? I hope not. I like physical goods in the real world. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah. Interesting point about NFTs being more than just art and collectibles. I think you are the one who first showed me the Ethereum name service. And if I'm not wrong, the way it works is they match a wallet address to a common human readable name by minting an NFT. So there is an application like I think most people would be familiar with, like GoDaddy and stuff, providing domain name services, right? So this is an application that uses NFT, but not
Absolutely
about art or collectibles.
Yeah.
So let's move on to something more Web3 related, because talk was about Web3. Here's an interesting one by Imam Rahmani. I hope I got the name right. Will tech giants change their entire infrastructure to Web3? If that happens, is Web3 still solving centralization problems? I think what he means, like, if all big tech giants jump on this Web3 blockchain stuff, that defeats the purpose of being decentralized.
Yeah, I think, like what I said before, I actually don't think that everything will become decentralized. I think, especially what we've seen last year, is that decentralization is a scale. You have super centralized way of operating on the web. You have super decentralized way of operating on the web. Like if you look at some of the layer 2 chains, like Solana, Binance Chain, AVAX, or Luna, you can kind of plot them on a certain scale of how decentralized or centralized they are. And if you would have asked me at the beginning of last year, do people care a lot about decentralization? I would have thought maybe initially yes. But after what has happened last year and how popular some of the more centralized chains became in terms of usage, I realized actually most people don't care whether it's decentralized or centralized. But what they do care about are the applications that you can do on a blockchain. And what I see is that people do care about the ownership portion of the blockchain, right? So I think only a few people will truly care about decentralization versus centralization, and I think we'll kind of continuously operate on that scale. So I don't think Web 2 companies will put everything on Web 3. Yeah.
I feel, okay, just to play the devil's advocate, I feel people will care about decentralization, but whether it'll matter enough, I'm not sure. But I certainly do hope that people care about decentralization and move to the future. I would like to envision like Spotify is around 100% decentralized. Let's see, what do we have next? I think you were also talking about L2 solutions like Solana, and I have worked with something like Polygon to mint NFTs, which makes the gas fees a bit low. Can you explain what a layer two solution. Can you make the distinction between Ethereum and something like Polygon or Solana for us?
Yeah. So Ethereum is a layer one chain. Polygon is a layer two chain. A layer two chain, and there's different methods of building layer two chains. But the original truth of Polygon or Arbitrum or ZK rollups, it still sits on the Ethereum chain. So they kind of work parallel. You have Ethereum, you have things that happen on Arbitrum, but the truth kind of always goes back to Ethereum, which is the layer one chain. Now, what has happened last year is the layer two chains were kind of slow to gain popularity because they didn't have enough applications on there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So competing with Ethereum, you have other layer one chains, like I mentioned before, like an AVAX, Luna, Solana, and you're able to bridge from layer one chain to other layer one chains. And each layer one chain has kind of their own benefits, whether it is cheaper transactions or faster throughput or a stronger developer community. So yeah, and I mean, what will happen most likely towards the middle of this year is the layer two chains will become on Ethereum, will become more popular, and potentially people will migrate kind of back to Ethereum. But that's one road forward. Another road forward is that the other layer one chains kind of keep expanding, keep becoming more popular. Yeah. So, but I think this brings me back to the point that I said before, like even me talking about it, I realize 90% of the people listening will just tune off, which is why I think a solution like an Argent, which is an application level mobile wallet that interacts with certain chains, you get the yield you want, you get whatever, own the NFTs you want. You don't need to care about the underlying ecosystem. I'm sure at the beginning of the web, there was this battle around, what is it, IMAP, POP, SMPT, like SMTP. None of us care about that. We care about the email client that sits on top and the fact that I can send messages to you, right? And so I think right now we're in the phase where we're still battling over what that Web3 infrastructure will be, but the users will be one on the application layer.
Absolutely. I think the end users probably don't care much about the inner workings of the technology. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. I think we can't do this talk without mentioning metaverse. Sean from ATQA wants to know when you're going to the metaverse together. And yeah, so let's roll this up into a question. Maybe you can talk about what NFTs and blockchain has to do with that. What is the connection with the metaverse?
So in my mind, like a definition of the metaverse is a place where we come together outside of the in real life world, which is a very broad definition. And it would mean that even hanging out like this on YouTube is in some shape or form like a metaverse, right? We are all interacting in some way. There's another, vision, more high fidelity vision of the metaverse, which Mark Zuckerberg has shown us, where we all walk around with VR headsets, AR headsets, and we interact kind of in that space. So I think the metaverse is all of that. What does the blockchain have to do with that? I think what the blockchain has to do with that is that in that metaverse, you'll want to own things, and you'll want to own things cross-platform, right? Whether it's a space like a piece of land or an item that you can bring from game to game. Now, you can have a metaverse where those items are controlled by a centralized entity like Facebook. No judgment, no right or wrong, but that's one way of approaching it. The other side of it is you'll want to live in a metaverse where when you own things, you can bring them from space to space, from metaverse to metaverse. And that's where a blockchain would come in handy.
I think our earlier example of DeFi King, that's a great example. I'm sure we talked about a serious layer to that. It's just gamified finance. But I do think that perhaps maybe another angle is casual gaming is what makes the NFT world and blockchain world and metaverse, that brings it together. Things that we have already seen a lot of NFT art pieces when you connect to one of the game clients, how they come to life. So you can see on OpenSea a static NFT, but when you use it in the game, it comes to life in other forms and ways. Yeah, so let's see if we have a couple of more minutes. People are bringing us back to NFTs and the impact on the environment. There's a question from Steve. Do you think can NFTs reach carbon neutral by 2030? How much green premium should we pay when purchasing an NFT art piece?
So the first part of the question, can NFT reach carbon neutral by 2030? Like an individual NFT cannot, but I mean, it really depends on the consumer. If you start buying NFTs that integrated inside their smart contract have a way to offset carbon neutrality, then we can reach it. But it's really like I would say like, depends on the user and the buyer. How much green premium should we pay when purchasing an NFT art piece? I think it really depends on what you wanna pay, right? Can be 5%, can be 10%. I'm really not sure. Yeah.
Maybe Chainlink is the way to bring that data on chain and inform the chain of how much premium one should pay for a particular transaction. That could be one of the things.
Yeah.
Okay, I think maybe one last question is about the conversation. When you talk to someone about blockchain and crypto, again, I'm going back to the starting point when we spoke about market. Everyone talks about what is the price of Ethereum, what is the price of Bitcoin. But when you're talking to a crypto native, what is the kind of conversation you should be having? What should we be reading up about? How should we be coming up to speed?
Look, in terms of coming up to speed, the best thing to do is set up a Web3 wallet in your MetaMask or your Coinbase wallet and start interacting directly with protocols and projects that are out there, right? It just takes your mind away from the whole token and the marketplace price of Ethereum going up and down or whatever other coins you use. But when you interact with protocols, you just see how powerful they are and how different these project team members are thinking about whether it's finance or NFTs and art. It's just there's such a large world of innovation that is happening in that space. So I think that's the biggest tip for anyone that wants to look into crypto is to just do that, get hands-on, get deep into that. And then your other question about if I was speaking to a crypto native person, what would I talk about? Again, this is probably just for like 1% of the audience here, but I would talk about the curve wars, where certain protocols are trying to control all the liquidity within the Ethereum space specifically. I talk about ETH 2.0 that's coming up, a bit later this year. I'll talk about the Luna ecosystem. What I find really interesting there is that there's this mobile wallet and credit/debit card in Korea called Chai. It has 2 million users. It's completely backed by the blockchain, which is the Lunaterra ecosystem. And so they have found a way to have an infrastructure, which is the stablecoin UST, but the front end, the mobile wallet that allows you to do payments, that allows you to send money from one person to another, and to actually have a physical card that allows you to pay. It's all backed by the blockchain, but you use it in the existing real life infrastructure. So these are some of the things that I would talk about. Yeah.
Actually, Luna and Chai is a perfect example of, I mean, for all intents and purposes, for the user, it just looks like any card payment platform. They show you the card and you can use it, and how the user doesn't have to care about what's backing the technology. Anyway, I think this is a perfect time to wrap this up. I drive home your point about the first step to getting involved in the blockchain is creating a wallet for yourself. If you're an engineer, I will go further, create a wallet for yourself, write some contracts deployed on the blockchain, test networks that you can play around with. It's a really interesting space to start experimenting with. I think that's it, Erik. Thank you so much for being with us today. Again, joining the show. We hope to have you again in the future as well. Um, yep. Uh, Yeah, perfect. So I also want to say thanks to the production team. There's a lot of people working behind the scenes to get this show running, and all the viewers on YouTube who joined today and submitted the questions. Just a reminder, this show happens every month. So this year we have a lot of interesting, exciting content plan, exciting guest speakers plan. So make sure you join us in February. And yep, that's it for today. So signing off.